Alright, so in another string of marriage dramas I've been watching recently, I finally got around to 2019's A Marriage Story, written and directed by Noah Baumbach. This film has compelled me for a long time, but for whatever reason, just never got around to watching it. I remember it coming out just slightly before 2020, but felt like it was kind of lost in the memes and the time period that this came out in. Thankfully, though, my local library has the criterion of this film, so I was like, okay, I'll watch that. So now I finally had an excuse to watch it, and I absolutely enjoyed it. So this film stars Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, Laura Dern, Ray Liotta, and Azzy Robertson. And essentially, what this film is that it's two people that are in a long-term marriage that is slowly falling apart, and the two of them dealing with the divorce system, lives of two people that were married together, that had so much going for them, so much there for them, but eventually fell apart, fell out of love, and are getting a divorce. And it's these two characters dealing with how turmoil and how awful it is to go through a divorce, how stressful and depressing it is to have to go through a divorce. So this film, one thing I really enjoyed, that it opens up on these two people at a marriage counselor, and they both have two written letters to each other about why they love their partner or things that they had really admired about their partner. And this was a great way to really introduce these characters, to getting an early understanding of these characters. And throughout the film, it'll really unravel more and more of who these people really are. The way I really looked at this film is that divorce is almost an avalanche, and Adam Driver's character is the guy who doesn't show up with skis and has to buy skis at the last minute at the resort, versus Scarlett Johansson's character, who is ready, equipped, has their equipment, but still they're two people that are going to have to deal with an avalanche, and whether you're prepared or you're really not prepared, it will end quite bloodily and terribly. Adam Driver's character in this film is really shown to be a quite successful, self-made guy who also has a lot of naivety when it comes to going through this type of separation. When you have kids involved, when you have assets involved, when you have salaries involved, it takes on a bigger monster than I think he was ever expecting. Where Scarlett Johansson is someone who is an actress, a very successful actress, who is shown to be quite intelligent. This film somewhat has a slow start, but I think it makes sense for what later comes in this film, and the more you get to know about these characters and this process, I think it's really nice and important that it does show them as a family unit, how they worked, how they joked, how they played with their kid. They also start this film in New York, where Adam Driver is a play director who finally got something going by getting one of his productions to Broadway. Well, at the same time, Scarlett Johansson is ready to serve divorce papers. This is a shock for Adam Driver, who was somewhat naive to this process. It seemingly seemed like he really didn't think that this is the scale that it is when you get divorced. And I think this film, it really, really picks up whenever it introduces Laura Dern's character and Ray Liotta's characters, who really portray how awful and scummy the entire divorce lawyer industry is, and also how divorce works itself legally. It's quite fucking horrific. Adam Driver fails to get a lawyer, and Lauren Dern calls him and basically says, "Okay, where's your lawyer?" He's like, "I don't have one. I think we're just gonna we'll just talk it out essentially." And she's like, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen. If you do that, we are gonna push for everything." And that was a sudden shock for him to realize that he could lose complete custody of his child. He could lose his entire salary from his job, all of his assets. And I thought one thing that was really interesting was how much he was using former words or former conversations with Scarlett Johansson, saying, well, she would never do that. We agreed that we're going to do this civilly. We're going to do this as easy as possible, whatever is best for the kid. And the lawyer's like, yeah, that's not how I make money. We don't just make it simple and easy for two couples to separate and have deviated time with their child. No, it's pretty vicious. It's pretty vindictive. And that was basically, to me, the most I took away from this film was just really how awful the divorce process is. Someone who's been single for a while, I don't really ever see myself getting married because I'm not religious, so I don't need the A-OK from God to go all the way. So for me, it would just be more of a formality if I got married. And the biggest thing that why I don't want to get married is because, and I think this is one thing that the movie shows very well, is you don't know someone in 5 years. You're marrying them today, but you don't know what they're going to be like in 10 years. You don't know what could change in 10 years. When you get married, you're now legally bonded to this person by your assets. And going through this much financial turmoil can absolutely destroy a person, and we see it a lot. I think the great scene was during their deposition when the two lawyers are just going at it, and it just is such, and it's just so vile, things that you would think would be quite trivial to do with your spouse before, like say, oh, I drink a bit too much wine, I'm tripping over the stairs. That's now looked at, you're an alcoholic who gets way too drunk to even be able to put your kid to bed. It's like, what and it just, that was such a beautiful scene, as it really shows them kind of breaking from this supposed civility that they were going to have about this divorce. And I think this is really the process when a lot of people lose themselves, and eventually it becomes a contest. It becomes I need to win, I need to get more because I hate this person more than anything now. The fact that they are making me go through this, I am going to go for more. And that happens a lot. And you could really see, and this film has a great way of portraying how that really makes sense. And if you see the complications that these people had in their lives before, and things before all this came down, you can really see this would be like, this is just so devastating that a person like this would have to go through it. And Noah Baumbach's direction was absolutely great. I thought it was a very interesting one. It was not a one. The aspect ratio was actually a bit strange. It was 1.661, which standard films is 1.851. So it definitely has that weird look. It's very subtle. Eventually, you don't have these on your screen. Basically, they cut off the very ends of each of these screens. I'm not that. It's all reversed. It's hard to do hand direction, but essentially, Jesus, I suck at this. Okay, dude. These were like cut off, okay, and I stayed straight. So I thought that was interesting. The direction of this film was quite good. It was pretty much, I would say, quite stale or standard. It wasn't really that technically impressive from what I've seen. Maybe on a rewatch, I would kind of notice more things. But definitely some really good long takes, some incredible performances he was able to get out of these people. I thought it was great too that these are two people that seemingly, I'm not gonna say he completely besmirched Star Wars or Marvel, but these are people that I wouldn't say are picking the most artful movies, or they're not picking the most important or impactful movies. And it's really great to see these two actors, who one is basically the new Darth Vader for Star Wars, and one is the like new female icon for superheroes. And the fact that they're just doing this film that's not very flashy, quite raw and quite real of a film, I thought that was beautiful. And again, going into Noah Baumbach, I thought The Squid and the Whale was a quite interesting portrayal of a divorce. Then that one really focused a lot more on the children and how it is to go for a child to go through. There is a child character in it, and it is quite well acted by this child. He did a very good job, and he's part of it. But I would say what you're really going to see is Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver going through these awful, terrible things. But overall, I would give this film a 9.5 out of 10. This was an incredible film. I'll be definitely rewatching this film. Noah Baumbach is a very, very impressive writer-director, and I highly recommend, if you haven't seen this yet, to go out and see it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.